Hey, what's up, Musers? This is John at Muse for You, here to help you build awesome websites without code. And I have a really fun video tutorial for you today. We're going to be building a website, and we're going to be adding an appointment system to the website. Now, I just did a website on building a yoga system, building a yoga website, where we used the Square appointments system there for it. In this one, we're going to be using an appointment system called Easy Appointments. We are going to be working with databases. If you haven't worked with databases before, don't worry, it's fairly easy, and you can just watch this video tutorial to see how to create a database, and we're going to be installing Easy Appointments onto the database. So I have the website here. We're using quite a few widgets from museforyoushop.com. So I'll go ahead and preview the website, and then I'll go through the different aspects of the website, and I'll show you the appointment system as well. So I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. And the first thing we see here is we have this animation, and this was done with Muse Motion 2. And it's just an animation sequence that I have there. And if you click on this little circle here, there's an animation there as well. Here I have a widget that's actually not in the shop yet. It's going to be in the shop in the next day or so, probably tomorrow or the next day, but it's called the elastic drop down menu, and it's really fun. You click on it and it's kind of this elastic menu that comes in or scrolls out like that, and I have some links there. Before I click on the links, I'll just go through the website a bit more. Here I just added an image of a lady, and it is a web consulting website, so the booking system is going to be centered around web consulting, just as an example for the website. And then here we have Book Now. If you click here, it'll take you to the booking system. But before we do that, I'll just scroll down. I have created a tutorial on how to create these scroll effects. This was done with Muse Motion 2. I added the scroll effects there with Muse Motion 2, and we can see it comes in just like that. Looks good. So we have some scroll effects there with Muse Motion 2. And if I click on the menu, each of these menu items scroll to the different sections. Okay, and if I refresh the page and I click down to those different sections, it has the scroll effects with the scroll as well right there, and we can go back to the home page. That looks good. And then for the button here, I'm using the animated buttons widget from museforyoushop.com. Here it says Book Now. So let's say I'm going to the website and I do want to book a consultation, or I want to I want to talk to this lady here. I'll just click here, and then here is the Easy Appointments program, pretty much. So here I can select a service called Support. The service provider is me, John there, and the support, the duration, and the price. Now with this booking system, you can't, there's no payment system, so you would have to charge the client. Either they can send you a payment through PayPal, or if you're meeting with this client in person, you could charge them then. But it's just a really great booking system, or an appointment system, and then you can link it to your Gmail as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the whole process of booking a consultation. So I'll click next. I'll select a date, so I'll say the 7th, then I can pick a time, click next, and here I'll fill in my information, John R, say John at museforyoushop.com. Phone number, I'll say 12345678990, and then I'll click next. And then I just have to fill in the CAPTCHA here, so you don't get any spam from any robots or anything like that. And that's it. So here I'm confirming the appointment. I'm entering in the CAPTCHA. I've selected support from John Ramos, the date, and the dollar amount. And here's the information from me, the client, and I'll click confirm. And then it says your appointment has been successfully registered. So I'll click back to go to booking page, and I can go to the booking page. So that's it. And I think you can add links as well to go back to the website, but we'll go through all the settings of easyappointments.org. To get access to Easy Appointments, it's right here, but you can go to easyappointments.org. And then here you can download the latest version. Just click download latest version, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and start rebuilding the website. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is build the database for the appointment, so we can get that right out of the way, and then I'll continue with building the website. This might be a fairly long video tutorial, and I might even add sections in the description area below so you know exactly what I'm talking about in the different sections. But I'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is open MAMP. One thing that I'm doing in this tutorial, I'm not actually building a database on my web server. I'm building it locally on my computer. And MAMP is a program, and you can Google it and download it, and I'll leave a link in the description area below. You can just type in MAMP, and it lets you build websites locally on your computer. And there's a free version you can download here, and it's for OS X and Windows. So I've built the appointment system locally on my computer, just so I don't have to go into all my web server stuff, my live web server. So you can download MAMP to test it out first, or if you want to go directly into your live web server, you'll find those options of building a database in your web server as well. And I'm not going to go too much into that, but if you have questions with that, let me know, and I can kind of guide you in the right direction. Okay, so I'm going to go into my folder here, and this folder here is where I have the website locally, and I'll explain this in a second, but basically here I have the Easy Appointments zip file that I downloaded. I downloaded this earlier, but when you download it from easyappointments.org, it'll download, and then you can place it in the folder you would like. So I'll just paste the zip file in here. I'll double click, and there's the folder. Now what I want to do with this folder is make sure that it's in the root folder called Appointments 1, because in MAMP, if I go to the settings, if I go to tools or MAMP and I go to preferences and I go to the web server is pointing to desktop sites and WordPress. I would build some WordPress sites using MAMP, but it is going to that folder, and in that WordPress folder I have another folder called Appointments 1. So when I type in my localhost, I'm going to type in Appointments 1 because that's the folder that I want to go to. If that didn't make sense, that's okay, because I'm going to show you now. So I'm just going to double click in here. Okay, and what I want to do here is take all of these elements and place them right in here into the root folder. So they're not in this folder anymore. They're not in this Easy Appointments 1.1.1. They're in the root folder Appointments 1. So what I did is I changed the view, and I grabbed all the contents from that other folder and placed it in the root folder. So that is that there, and here are all the files. And so now, because this folder is empty, I can just delete this folder. So I'll right click and move to trash, and it doesn't matter that zip file is there. And let me clean this up a little bit. So there we have the folders. All right, so in this folder, it looks like there's quite a few files, but the only thing you need to worry about or work with is this config.php. So I'm going to right click, open with my code editor. Here I'm using Atom. And if I scroll down, here we have the database settings. We have database host, database name, database username, and database password. So we will have to add that information. And for now, I'm just going to close this. And what I'm going to do is actually go to this folder just to show you what's going on when I go to this folder. So I'll open up Chrome, and I'll go to localhost.888, because this is the port that I'm using in MAMP. And then I'm going to type in Appointments 1, because that's the folder that the Easy Appointments is in. I'll hit enter, and then here we get a database error. Because we haven't set the database, it's looking for the database and it can't find it. There's no information basically in the database config file. So what we need to do is go into PHP myadmin. If you're not familiar with those terms, it's not too difficult. It is different, but I'll show you how to use PHP myadmin. So in MAMP, what you do is you open MAMP, and then here we'll click on Open Web Start Page. So I'll click on that. And then right here, MySQL can be administered with PHP myadmin. So I want to click there. And now this is the PHP myadmin kind of console area. If you've ever worked with WordPress or databases, this will be very familiar to you. If you haven't, don't worry about it. All we're going to do is create a database and add a username and password to the database. So to create a database, you just click here in Databases, And then here where it says create a database, you can just write a name. So I'm going to write in APP1 for like appointments 1. And then I'll click create. And you could write any name for the database. It's preferably shorter than really long, but you can write the name you'd like for the database. And we want to remember the database name. So here it's APP1 or app1, kind of short for appointments. So now that we have the database created, we can create a user for the database. So here I'm going to click on add user. So I went to users here, right up here in this tab, and I'll click on add user. And then for the username, I'm just going to type in Muse for you for the username. The host, we're going to say local. We're going to have the local host. And if you know the host, or you know what the host is, you can write that here. For the password, I'm going to say something like ABC12345. Yeah, ABC12345. Okay, and you can generate a password if you want a really secure password. If it is going to be live on a web server, I would recommend a really good password so nobody can get into the database. And so a strong password is recommended if it's on a live server. All right, and that's it. So we've done that. And for global privileges, you can check all if you want this user to be able to control all the databases, I believe. But for now, we can just say go. I'm not going to give this user global privileges, so I'll say go in here, and I've added the user. So the user is Muse for you. The database name is APP1, and the password is ABC12345. All right, so now what I'm going to do is go into that config file back in the Easy Appointments folder. So I'll right click, open with the code editor here, Atom. And then here for the database host, I'm going to say local host because that's what we chose for the host. The database name is APP1. The database username is Muse for you. And the database password is ABC12345. And then I'll just simply go to File and Save. And that is it for the config.php. And now when we go back into here into localhost 888 appointments 1 into that folder, I'll click refresh, and here it says unable to connect to your database server using the provided settings. So we're missing something, so I'm going to right click, open with the code editor, and let's see what we're missing. Okay, so what we're missing here is we have to write in the base URL. So this has to match this address here. So we have to change here where it says URL to Easy Appointments directory. We're going to change that to this directory where we're going to have the Easy Appointments installed. So I'm going to hit Command C to copy, and then I'll hit Command V to paste. I can delete this backslash here, and then I'll I'll click File and Save. And the other reason why we're not able to why it's not working is because we didn't assign the database APP1 to Muse for you. So here in the user section, we want to go to edit privileges, then we want to go to database, and then we want to add privileges on the following database. So I'm going to say APP1, and then I'm going to say, we're going to say check all here, and we're just going to give it all the privileges from this user to this database. So I'll click go. So I've updated the privileges for the username Muse for you so that I can access the database APP1. And here we see it says edit privileges user Muse for you at localhost, and then database APP1. Okay, so back to the config.php file. So here for the database host, we wrote localhost, database name APP1, database username Muse for you, and the database password ABC12345. So the only thing I did was make sure when you create your user, you want to go to edit privileges, and then you want to go to database and add the privileges from that user to that particular database, and you can select from your databases in the PHP My Admin, and then you want to give as many privileges as you want. You can just give all privileges if you'd like for that database, or if you know what privileges you'd want to assign, you can assign them specifically to that database from that user to that database. All right, so here we're in the config. I've gone over this, and the base URL, we want to make sure that this is the same as where we have where we're directing the appointments to. So for here, it's localhost 888/appointments1. If it's on your live web server, so if I had it on museforyoushop.com, I type in museforyoushop.com / the folder where Easy Appointments is in. So now if I type in localhost 888/appointments1, hit enter, we have the installation. So this is the installation page, and for the administrator, you can just type in your name and email, phone number 12345678890, username I'll say Muse for you, password ABC 12345. This doesn't have to match the database. I'm just using the same password to, I guess, save time here. And you can type the company name, so I'll say Muse for you, say John at museforyoushop.com, company link museforyoushop.com. All right, so that's it. And then they have a license here that you can read, and I'll click install Easy Appointments. And there it is. I have Easy Appointments installed. Right now I'm in the back end, and the back end is going to be the folder that Easy Appointments is in, then /index.php/backend. If I was to access the front end, I just erase this, click enter, and this is the front end. And the front end starts with some kind of dummy services that are not real, I would say, because here it says test service and the provider is John Doe. So I'm going to quickly create a service and a provider. So I'm going to say appointments 1, and to access the backend, I can actually click here in the backend section, or I can type in index.php /backend, and then I'm in the backend. And then for users, I'll click here to create a provider. Here we see that I'm the admin. It says John R. And then I'll click on providers to create a provider. And for providers, I'll add a provider, and then I'll add myself, John R, John at museforyoushop.com, phone number 123457890, username I'll say Muse for you, password ABC12345, ABC12345, and then there's more information there that I can fill out. And then I'm going to assign this provider to the test service. I'm going to create another service and assign this provider to the other service as well. So I'm going to click save, and let's see why I couldn't complete. Username already exists, so I'll say Muse for you 1, and then I'll click save. So there we have another provider. So now I'll go to services, and I'll create a new service. So I'll click add, and then the name I'll say support. Duration, support duration, I'll say let's say 60 minutes, and so it's an hour. The price will say 35, and then currency will say US dollars, just like that. And let's just add a dollar symbol there. For the category, I don't need a category, and then I'll just say support here for the description. Obviously you'd want to write something a little bit more descriptive so that when someone's scheduling an appointment, they know what they're scheduling an appointment for. And then here I'll click save, and let's see, the operation cannot complete, service price is not numeric, so we can't add a dollar symbol here in the price section. So I'll click save, and the service was saved successfully. So now I'll go to users, I'll click on John R, and then I'll click on edit, and then, I want to click on providers, not admin, so I'll click in users, then providers. And for John R, I'll assign him as well I'll click on edit, and I'll assign him to support as well. Then I'll click on save, and then if I go to the front end, so localhost appointments 1, I can now select support for a service, and I can select John R for the provider, and that's it. And then I go to next. I can fill out the appointment date and time, and it says, please select a day. And then I go through all this, fill out all the information, and then I've booked my appointment. So it's as simple as that. You can have a lot of fun playing with this system here. Easy Appointments, it is free, and it's just a great way to allow for appointments on your website. And there are a few other things. So for settings, you can create the dates and times that you're available. You can book advanced timeout there. And yeah, you can add breaks and just set your schedule here for your appointment system. In general, you can add Google Analytics so you can see how many people are going to your booking system, the current user, and then about, and then there's a few other things here as well. Oh yes, syncing with Google Calendar. To sync with Google Calendar, you need a product name, a client ID, a client secret, and an API key. And all of this can be found if you type in, I believe it's Google Developers Council, just like that, and you go to the Google Developers Council. You can create a project and go from there. So I would just Google how to create an API in Google and go from there. I'm not going to go into all of that because that is fairly sensitive information, but you can just Google how to create an API with a product name, client ID, client secret, and an API key. Then you would enter in all that information here, and that would sync with your Google Calendar. So you could even type in Google Calendar Sync API or something into Google. So like if I type in Google Calendar Sync, just like that, and then I enter in Google Sync, or it would have to be Google Calendar Sync developer tools, and yeah, so it would be in the API section. And then they just have more information. I'll find the exact link for you, and I'll place it in the description area below, so you can go to the section where you can create the API and sync your Google Calendar. All right, so we've covered pretty much everything for creating the database and the easy appointments. So again, the most important thing is the database settings. So the host was localhost, the name was app1, database username Muse for you, and the password abc12345, and the base URL, we want to make sure that it goes to the folder or the URL where the easy appointments is installed, and you can change the language. So easy appointments has quite a few different languages. It looks like maybe close to 20 languages here, which is another great feature of it. So wherever, whatever country or whatever language you want to accept appointments, you can do that with easy appointments. So that's a great feature. So again, we created the folder, we've unzipped easy appointments into that folder, and we've worked with the config.php file, and that's it. And then we worked with PHP myadmin. We created a database, called it a database name. We created a user, then we went to edit privileges and assign the user to that database. We could have used root for the user because the root user has all privileges and can access any database. So I believe that's correct there, but I did go over how to create a new user and assign that user to the database. If you're working on Bluehost, all of this is fairly simple. I do have a VPS and I'm not quite able to do that, I think, with my VPS, but in Bluehost there's a section where you just click on create database and you assign a user to that database, so you actually wouldn't even have to go through PHP myadmin. But if you did want to know how this works, this is how you build it manually in PHP myadmin. So that's it for that. I know I went over a lot of information, and if you do have Bluehost, you can get Bluehost at museforyoushop.com, and you can click on the pop-up here, and if you go to web hosting, you can get Bluehost, and all you have to do to create the database is type in Google creating a database in Bluehost, and it's like 3 steps to create a database. You actually don't have to go through all that PHP myadmin stuff that I just went through. All you'd have to do is create the database and then change it in here. Okay, so I think I've gone over enough. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I did cover a lot of information there. Okay, so I'm going to continue with building the website. This part is kind of the more design aspect of it. A lot of these widgets that I'm using here are found at museforyoushop.com. So again, I'll go to museforyoushop.com, and then here I'll click on the pop-up, and here you can click subscribe to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year, or you can click here to subscribe with PayPal, or you can purchase the widgets individually by clicking on the widget. Here's the Muse Motion 2 widget, and here you can simply click on add to cart to purchase individually, or again, you can get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. Okay, so there's museforyoushop.com, and now we're gonna recreate the entire website. So I'm gonna go to File, New Site, and I'm gonna click OK. I'm gonna double click in here, and the first thing I'm gonna do is create that animation sequence, and I'm gonna do that first because I want to sample the colors from the different elements in that animation sequence. So I'm gonna go to my Finder window. I'm gonna go to my video website folder here. I'm gonna click here. I got the image from Dollar Photo Club, which is gonna be Adobe stock on April 15th. And here I'll right click, open with Adobe Illustrator, and I'll click yes. And here, yeah, I'll just move this over here to the right and the shadow here. And basically what I'm gonna do is copy all of these elements individually into my website. So I'm gonna click on the phone here and I'll hit Command C to copy. Then I'll go into Muse, or you know what, let me backtrack a little bit. So I'll hit Command Z. The first thing I want to do is shrink this image down to 700 pixels wide, because here on my desktop version, my website is 960 pixels wide. So I want this image to be a bit smaller. This image right now is 1600 pixels wide, so I want it to be 700 pixels wide. And there we go. So I'll just zoom in a little bit more, and that's it. All right, so I'll move this over to the right, and I'll move the shadow away as well. So I'll just copy this phone here. So I'll hit Command C. I've selected the phone, go into Muse and enter in Command V to paste. I'll go back into Illustrator and I'll copy this one line in here, paste in here, and I'm actually going to copy this background color in here and make it my background color on my Adobe Muse website. So I've copied the hex code here in Adobe Illustrator. I'll go into Muse, I'll go into the white background here in browser fill. I'll select browser fill and then hit enter, and there's the background. And I'll save the swatch because I might use that color a little bit later. So I'm going to be moving fairly quickly just to save some time in this video tutorial, but definitely feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section. All right, so I'm just going to place this element here, and I'll click OK here. I'll copy this element here, paste that in there, and we'll make it kind of right there. Looks good. Go back into Illustrator, copy this element here, looks good. Back into Illustrator, copy this one right here, paste in there, put that right there, looks good. Illustrator, and then I'll copy each of these little cards here without the shadow. Yeah, we don't need this shadow here. I'll delete that. So I'll copy this, go into Muse and paste, place it right there. Looks good. Okay, just copy this here. All right, looks good. And I'll copy this here, Command C. All right, looks good. And I'll copy this here and paste in there, looks good. So there's our animation, or our elements for the animation. Let's see if I missed anything. Nope, looks good. I've got all the elements. So with the Muse Motion 2 widget, we can animate eight elements in a sequence. So to do that, what we need to do is assign a graphic style to each of the elements we want to animate. So I'm going to start in sequence. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll start with this line here. I'll go to my graphic styles panel. If you don't see your graphic styles panel, you can just go to window and click on graphic styles, and that'll bring up the graphic styles. And then here I'll click on this little icon that looks like a piece of paper, and here it says create a new style from the attributes applied. So I'll click there, and for the style name, I'll double click to change the style name, and I'll call this Motion 1. Initially in the Muse Motion 2 widget, all of the elements are in sequence from 1 to 8. So it's Motion 1, Motion 2, Motion 3, Motion 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you've got your elements, you can just call them Motion 1 through 8, and you won't have to change the graphic style name in the widget. You could, but this just makes it easier because they already have the graphic style name assigned. All right, so I'll click on graphic styles, and then I'll click create a new one. I'll call this Motion 2. I'll click on the third element, new graphic style, motion 3, click on this element, new graphic style, motion 4, click on this element, new graphic style, motion 5, click on this element, new graphic style, motion 6, click on this element, new graphic style, motion 7, and then this last element, new graphic style, double click, and motion 8. All right, so we've assigned all the graphic styles. So now I'll go into my library panel. If you don't see your library panel, you can just go to Window and click on Library, and that'll bring up the library panel. So here I'm going to type in Muse Motion 2, and here it's just going to be a 2D transformation. It's not going to be a 3D transformation. So the first thing I want to do is bring in the Add First widget here. So I'll click, hold, and drag, and place that on the top. The top of my Adobe Muse website, and then I'll click, hold, and drag and place in the 2D transformations sequence. So I'll click, hold, and drag and place that onto my Adobe Muse website, and here we have the widget. So once we add the widget, if we go to File, Preview Page in Browser, we can see it starts animating right away because it has all the graphic styles. What I want to happen with this though is a little bit more of a fun animation where things are popping in a little bit more. All right, so to do that, I'll just go into the widget options and I'll click on animation 1, and here is where we're going to set up kind of all the transformation. For transformation 1, it is that line. So what I want to happen with this line is I want it to scale from the left to the right. So to scale it from a specific direction, what we do in the transform origin, I'm going to say I'm going to leave it at 50 actually. And for the transform origin Y, so on the x-axis, it's or actually I'm going to say 0, excuse me. For the transform origin X, I'm going to say 0, so it starts all the way to the left. And for the transform origin Y, I want it to be in the middle of the element, so it's going to be all the way to the left and to the middle of the element, and then it's going to animate from that point, and it's going to scale to the right. All right, for the duration, we'll leave it at 2, and we want the animation to start from, so it starts, you won't be able to see the element initially, and then it animates. All right, and then for the easing option, I want it to be an expo easing, just because I like the fluidness of that easing option. Okay, and then for this element, I want it to scale, so I'll check scale there in the animation options or the transformation options. We'll set scale, and we want it to scale. We'll say 0. We want it to scale from 0 to 1, so we can leave it at 0 there. That's it. So all we have to do is check scale, and then transform origin X 0, transform origin Y 50, and then the easing option expo, and that's it for that. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser just to see how it looks, and perfect. We can see that that line animates from the left to the right, and it scales up, or scales, so it scales from the left to the right, and it looks really nice. All right, looks good. And then for these elements here, what I want to do is have it scale as well. So for animation 2, I want it to scale from the bottom up. So for the transform origin X, we'll leave it 50, but for the transform origin Y, we'll say 100, because if you're on a graph, 100 is all the way at the bottom. If you say 0, it'll start at the top. So the transform origin is basically where you want the animation to animate from. So I want it to animate from the middle on the x-axis and all the way at the bottom on the y-axis. Okay, and then for the easing option, I'll say expo as well, just like that. And then again, I want it to scale from 0 to the full scale there, okay, which is 1. The default scale for an element is 1, which is the full size. So if you go bigger than 1, it will scale to bigger than 1, okay, or to bigger than the element size at that it's currently at. All right, so I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and perfect. All right, and it is going a little bit slow, so we'll work with that. So I'm going to animate the rest of these elements, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here I'm on the other side, so I want the line to to scale from the right to the left. So for the transform origin, I'm going to say 100 on the x-axis, and we'll leave it at 50. And then I'll make this here expo, and we'll scale it as well. Okay, I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. So here I've animated a few of the other ones, just like that. Looks good. And that one goes from the right to the left, this one here. All right, so, and I am gonna speed this animation up in a second, so I'll finish with the animation. Okay, so I've added the animation to all of the elements. So now I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. And there it is. It's actually a bit slow, so before I preview it, I'm gonna go into the widget, and for the entire time scale, I'm gonna set it to 3, so it plays fairly quickly. So I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, and there it is. It's a lot quicker, and we have that really nice animation. All right, there it is. So we've just created the animation for these elements, and I'll just move this in a little bit. Perfect. So I'll bring this down just like that, and I'll add some text here at the top. So I'll go to web, I'll say web consulting, just like that. We'll make the text Lotto right there, and I'll say maybe 48, looks good. Make this white here, perfect. And I'll center it right there. All right, and I'll paste that, and I'll say, what did I say here for this website? I said book a consultation today. So I'll say that here. I'll make the text a little bit smaller. Say book a consultation today. All right, looks good. Just like that. Center that, and I can group all of these elements just to make sure that it's centered. Yep, it is centered. I'll align, center it, and I'll right click and ungroup all of these elements. All right, that looks good. We have that. So the next thing I'm gonna do, because I haven't added the drop down elastic menu to the shop yet and the library panel, or to the widgets, I'll just copy this menu here and I'll paste right in there. All right, and for this widget here, I just changed the colors to this color here, the background color, and I've changed, or I didn't really work with the sizes of the font, and here I've added the menu items. I'll go over that in a second as well, but I'll just place this here in the upper right, and I'll pin it to the upper right so it doesn't move. And I'll bring all of these elements down just like that, and let me align this to the center. All right, so I'll just bring this down a little bit, just like that. That looks good. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is create that book now banner. That book now banner that was here at the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is sample a few colors from these elements here. So I'll click here on the background area. I'll go to browser fill. I'll click the sample color tool, and I'll sample this blue here. And then I'll add swatch and click OK. And I'll sample this yellow color here as well. I'll click add swatch and click OK. And then I'll change it back to this red. And actually for the background, I want it to be this yellow color here. So what I'll do is I'll create a rectangle right here, and I'll arrange send to back, and I'll make this rectangle red. All right, and then I'll stretch to browser width so it fills the entire browser. All right, so we have that there. So now I'll create a little banner below here. Right here, looks good. And then I'll make this banner, we'll say this blue color here, just like that. I'll copy this text in here, Command C to copy, paste, and then I'll say book now, just like that. And I'll go to my library panel, I'll bring in an animated buttons from the animated buttons widget right in here. So I'll type in animated buttons, click, hold, and drag. And then for this one, we're gonna say, I think I used Ujarak 2 for the button, just like that. And then for the color, we're gonna change it to white. The background color, we're gonna say, I'll just change a few colors here. So I'll say this blue, Let's try that, and we'll say yellow. We'll see how this button looks. All right, and I'll place it right in here. And for the button text before, I'll say book or click here. And then for the button text after, I'll say book now. For the font family, I'll say inherit. And then I'll click on the widget, I'll go to text, and then I'll change the text to this ASAP text. All right, so let's see how this looks. I'll go to file, preview page in browser, and I'll click there. So that button doesn't look great, and I have to set this to 100% width. So I'll stretch the browser width, and I actually don't think it's UJRAC for the button type. Let's see, I think it might be, let's try Wayra right in here. And we'll say Wayra 1. All right, just like that. And let's make this button a little bit bigger. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, that's cool, I like that. We'll just change the background color here to this orange. Okay, so we're using Wayra 1. So it's not the same button I was using in the other, the first website, but it looks good, so I'll leave it. And then I'll just line these up a little bit more, just like that. All right, so I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, click here. All right, and let me change, let's see. Yeah, let me change that blue color to white. All right, so one more time, I'll go to File, File, Preview Page in Browser, and perfect, there we have it. So if I click here, nothing happens. So what we want to do with this click here is assign it to the booking system or the appointment system. So I'll click on it, and then I'll go to my booking system, and here I'll just copy the URL of where the appointment system is in. If it was on a live server, you would copy that URL for the live server. So I just copy the localhost appointments 1. So I'll click here on the widget. In the hyperlink section, I'll just hit Command V to paste and hit enter. And then for book now, if they click on book now, I also want them to go to the appointment section. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and if I click, it goes to the appointment section, and I can book an appointment. All right, perfect. Here I have the menu, looks good, and we have the animation there. So now I'll add that the face of that lady that we had here. So I'll go back into my Finder, I'll go to my images, I'll right click, open with Adobe, nope, not Adobe Illustrator. I'll right click, open with Adobe Photoshop. So we have it here, and to get a perfect circle of her face, what we want to do is go here to the left hand side, and here is this marquee tool. At first it might be the rectangular marquee tool, but we want to select elliptical marquee tool so that we can get a perfect circle. And then we want to go here where her face is, hold down shift, and then click, hold, and drag over her face to create a circle just like that. And you can move it a little bit with your arrow keys if it's not perfect, and just like that. That looks good. So now I'm going to select my arrow or my selection tool, and I'll hit Command C to copy. I'll go to File, New, and once you copy an element in Photoshop, it retains the dimensions of the element you copied. So I'll click OK, then I'll hit Command V to paste, and here in the layers panel, I'm just gonna uncheck the background visible here with this little eye icon, so we don't see this background, and we just have this transparent background behind the circle. So now I'll go to File, Export, Save for Web, and we want it to be a transparency of PNG-24. I'll click Save, and then let me go in here and I'll save this. I'll just save this Muse for You image-1, just like that. So there we have her face, and I'll go into the Finder. Here's her face. I'll click, hold, and drag, paste right in there. I'll make this a lot smaller, maybe 150 pixels by 150. There it is. And that's it there for her face. So the next thing I'm going to do is create the scroll effects. So I'm going to zoom out. For the scroll effects, all I did was copy these elements here, just like that, and I made them a lot bigger. So I made them like 300 pixels high. So I'll just select all of these elements at once by holding down Shift, then Command C and Command V to copy. And then here for the width, I'll say 300. All right, perfect. So there are my elements, and I'll just move them around a little bit so that they're offset from each other, just like that. Looks good. And I'll put them all the way to the left and the right. All right, perfect. So I'll select these 4 elements. I'll go to align to selection, distribute spacing vertically so that they have the same spacing in between. And I'll bring this down a little bit. And here I'll just copy the word web consulting. And I'll say, here, I'll put it here. I'll say, what did I say for the first one? Web hosting. And I'll paste again. Right over here to the left, I'll say content. And I'll paste again. And I'll say, what did I say? Responsive design. Okay, and then I'll paste again. And here I'll say social media. All right, so there we have it. And now what we want to do is assign an individual graphic style name to these different elements. So I'll click on this first element. I'll go to my graphic styles panel, and I'll create a new graphic style here, and it's called Motion. That's the name initially created. So I'll say Motion 11. I'll start in the 2-digit numbers so it doesn't interfere with these first graphic style names. It's just easier for me to remember there. So I'll go to the second one, create a new graphic style, call this Motion 12. Click OK. This one, new graphic style, call this Motion 13. Click here, new graphic style, call this Motion 14. All right, so there we have the graphic styles. So now what I want to do is go to my library panel again and bring in the Muse Motion 2 widget. And I'll bring in the 2D transformations. I don't want a sequence because I just want to animate or transform these individual elements. So there, I've brought it in. Let me zoom in a little bit, just like that. And I'll go to this first widget here, the one I just brought in. For the graphic style name, I'll say Motion 11, and I'll give it instance number 2, so it doesn't interfere. It doesn't interfere with the that first sequence that was created. And then for the animation start, I want to say on scroll, and on scroll offset, I'll say 50% from, so it starts to come in when it's at the middle of the browser. And then what I wanted to do is translate from the x-axis. So I want it to come in from the left to the right. So here in the translate x, I'll say enable translate x. I could even have it rotate and translate, but I won't do that here. So I want it to translate x. I want the animation to start from, and then I want to set the auto alpha to 0 so that it's not initially visible. And then for the amount, I want to say -500. So I want it to start -500 off the browser and come in from -500 from the left to the right. Okay, and the transform origin X and transform origin Y, we can leave 50-50, and that is it. And then for the easing option, I'll say Expo, so that all the easing and the feel of the website matches. And that is it for that first motion. So if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I scroll, we have it coming in. Looks great. All right, so what I'm going to do is copy this widget, the one we just placed. So I hit Command C to copy and Command V to paste. And then here I'll change the graphic style name to Motion 12, change the instance number. This we can leave just like that. And then for the translate X, I'm going to say 500 because I want it to come in from the right to the left. And that is all. That is all we have to do for that. And now I can actually copy these two and just change the graphic style name and the instance number. So for the third one here, we want it to come in from the left to the right. So it already has all the options set. We just need to change the instance number to 4 and the graphic style name to 13. And then for this last one here, we want it to come in from the right to the left, which it already is. We'll change the instance number to 5, graphic style name to 14, and hit enter. And that is it. So now if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I scroll down, we have that animation there. I'll scroll again, we have that one there. Scroll again. This one didn't quite do so well, so we'll check that out. So let me go to File, Preview Page in Browser again. Scroll down, good. good. Oh no, it's working fine. And good, perfect. So as we can see, this is graphic style name 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so motion 11, motion 12, motion 13, and 14. So we just essentially copied these two widgets from the Muse Motion 2 widgets, and then we assigned the graphic style name that was assigned to these elements. All right, so that looks good. We can see that the menu isn't on top of everything. So to change that, we just click on the menu. I'll right click, arrange, bring to front, and that is it. So the menu is on top, and the next thing I want to do is bring in the font smoother because I want the fonts to look a little bit nicer. So I'll go to my library panel and I'll type in font smoother, and here I'll bring in the font smoother light widget. All right, and that's all I have to do for that, and looks good. So the fonts will be a bit smoother. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh yes, we want to assign the anchor points so that the menu can scroll to those different anchor points. So to create anchor points, we just click here on the anchor point toolbar on the left. So I'll click 5 times because I want 5 different anchor points. So I'll click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll place the first anchor at the top. I'll say home. The second anchor I'll place right there. I'll call this web hosting. All right. And then the other anchor I'll place right here. I'll call this content. And I'm naming the anchors, and I'll show you why I'm naming them in a second. Here I'll just say responsive. And then here I'll say social media. All right, so there are the anchor points, and I want these 4 anchor points here to have the same spacing. So I'll go to my layers panel, and I'll select those 4 anchors by holding shift and selecting this little box here. Then I'll go to align, and I want to align to selection and distribute spacing, distribute vertical spacing, or yeah, vertical distribute space. So now all of these anchors have the same spacing in between them, and it just gives it a consistent feel for when scrolling to the anchor points. And I also want to align the anchor points in the center of the website. So I'll go to align to content area and align objects in the center, and perfect. Very good. Okay, so I'll just put that in there. Oh, I said very good. Try not to say that. All right, so I'll select these anchors and select all these. If you're still here, or if you followed this whole tutorial, that's great. I know I'm covering a lot of information. What I did here is select all the anchor points, and I'm just going to bring them down a little bit so that they're not too far from the elements here. All right, so we have all our anchor points. So in the widget here in the menu, I'll go to the widget options. The menu items, it's already set because I've done this for the other website. So here what we would do is give the name for the menu text. So we have home, web hosting, content, responsive, and social media. And then for the menu item link, you just do hashtag and the anchor name. So here's hashtag home, hashtag web hosting, hashtag content, hashtag responsive, and hashtag social media. And then you can change you can change the icon from 600 different font awesome icons, and if you want to check out the icons, you can just go to font awesome, type in font awesome in Google, and here it is. And then you can go to icons, and here are the names of the icons, and they're the same name in the menu widget here. So here in the menu items, you can change that, and you can select the amount of menu items. Here I've selected 5. Okay, that looks good, and this menu only has 6. So when it does come out, you'll have the option to choose between 6 menu items, between 1 and 6. Okay, and then for the menu, we've changed the colors there. I didn't show that, but all I did was change the colors to match the website. For the menu icon, the default is bars because that's kind of like the default menu icon is the bars there. For the text, you can change that to anything. Right now I have it set to open menu, and that's it. And then for the scrolling, the scroll speed, I have it set to 1000. I don't have an offset from the anchor. And then for the scroll to easing, I said ease out quad. You can choose from 32 different easing options, but I like ease out quad because it's a nice smooth transition. All right, so there we've set the menu. I'll just place here at the top, and I pinned it to the upper right. So now I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. And if I click on the menu and I click on web hosting, those different sections, it takes us to those different sections. Looks great. And I can add some more scroll space here at the bottom so that it scrolls all the way to that section, just like that. All right, that looks good. And the other thing, if you noticed, in the website, there's an underline underneath each of the menu items. To change that, you click on the menu, you go to the hyperlinks section, you click on edit links, and then here you can check off like all the underlining off the menu links. So in the link section is where you kind of edit the link styling, and you can create a new link style and apply it to the menu if you don't want the rest of your website to have the same menu link styling as the menu. Okay, so I'll click OK there, and now if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I click OK, we see there's no underline underneath the menu. All right, looks good and perfect. And if I click here, it takes me to the booking system. I can book a support service with John R. Click Next, select the time, click Next, enter in this information. So I'll do that real quick. John R. 1 2 3 4 5 7 8 9 0. Click Next and say 9 FBLQ and confirm. And then I've booked my appointment. If I'm the person who's offering the appointment, I'll get an email and it'll tell me this person has booked this following service. Okay, so that's basically it. That's Easy Appointments. It's a really great service, and you can sync it with your Google Calendar. All right, so I've covered everything in this tutorial. We created a database. We've installed Easy Appointments. We've used Muse Motion 2 for animation effects and transformations on the website, and also to sequence an animation. We used the elastic drop-down menu, which will be in the shop very soon. We used the font smoother for the fonts. We edited an image in Photoshop, and we've used the animated buttons to link the website to the appointment system. So that's it. And we can also create like a little footer here in the footer section, and I'll make it a different color, and I'll stretch to browser width. So we have a footer section there that'll look good at the bottom of the website. So I'll preview this in the browser one more time. I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser. There's the animation. Looks good. Perfect. And then I can click here to book now, book my appointment. We have some animation here: web hosting, content, responsive design, and social media. And here's our footer. And then in the menu, we can go to the different sections with the menu, and it has a really nice feel to it because we added a nice easing option. Ease out quad was the easing option here. All right, looks good. And for the footer, we can see that there's a little bit of yellow here, so I'll just make this footer a little bit bigger, like so. Go to File, Preview Page in Browser. If I go to the footer, it looks good. There's no yellow at the bottom. All right, perfect. So I can go to the bottom. Looks good, and back to the top there. All right, perfect, and there's the menu. So that's it for this video tutorial. It's fairly long, probably one of my longer video tutorials. It did cover a lot of information. If you've never seen databases before, it's, once you kind of get around it or start using it a little bit, it does become easier. But yeah, you can just follow kind of what I did in the beginning to build a database. And again, with Bluehost, it's very easy to create a database. They have a database section in the C panel or the control panel, and you can just create a database and assign a user, then go to the config.php and change all the information in the config.php. All right, so that's it for this video tutorial. To get access to all of these widgets that I've used in this video tutorial, you can just go to museforYouShop.com, and then here you can click on the pop-up right here. Yeah, I'll click on the pop-up, and then here you can click subscribe to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. Or if you'd like to subscribe with PayPal, you can click here and subscribe with PayPal. You can also purchase the widgets individually. Here I have the Muse Motion 2 widget, and we've used a few more. The elastic drop down menu widget will be in the shop very soon. Let's see, what else did we use? We used the font smoother here and the animated buttons here. Okay, and if you did want to purchase individually, you can just click here. I'll click on the Muse Motion 2 widget, and here you can click Add to Cart to purchase individually. or again, you can get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. So that's it for this video tutorial. I know it was fairly long, but if you did watch the whole thing, I think you'll be well on your way to creating a great website with an appointment system. So again, I do this to help you build awesome websites without code. If you like this video tutorial, you can subscribe below. Also in the show more section below are links to other resources and links to museforyoushop.com. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you.